Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio. This is your host, Critical Failure. What is this? Just when setting this up, I clicked into Steam. We have the spring cleaning event. Dust off your library with Dewey? This is very strange. There's a big banner on Steam right now for a new big sale. But the whole screen is banner and there's no storefront. Very strange. Would be nice to get a sale though. Yeah, here we go. Let's just take a quick look-see and see if there's anything good. Terraria had its big update. You a Terraria player? Ever play Terraria? Oh yeah, Terraria Endgame, Journey's End. It came out a couple days ago. I don't know. It's pretty sweet. I'll tell you this much. Terraria became the 4th most played Steam game of all time in one day when that update came out. Big time stuff. Free update for all you Terraria owners out there. We got that. We got some chiptunes and more stuff coming up on Tiger Claw Radio. I remember just like we got is Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know, man. Red Dead Redemption 2 takes some serious hardware, but that's on sale, 20% off. I think that's the first time you've been able to acquire that on stale. On stale. Yeah, there you go. The truth has a way of just coming out. Lots of stuff. Let's actually go. I'm going to click over to my wish list because these sales come and go, and there can be a lot of things, but not a lot from me. So let's take a look, and we'll compare the new and popular stuff to what's actually on my list. I never did buy Deus Ex Human Revolution. That's $3 right now. The director's cut on Steam. Never bought that. La Mulana 2 was $20, down from $25. I liked La Mulana, but it was so hard it didn't hold my interest for very long. I think I probably put like 2 hours into it, and that was about it. I don't know, man. I had some friends who were really into it and said it was super hardcore, just the exploring and the non-linearity. And yeah, you're right, it does have that. Exploration is super cool, but I just didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I need more than that. I'm just not that good. I'm not that hardcore. I don't know. I would give it another try. That's La Mulana 2. But that's it. I don't have a whole lot else on my friends list. My wish list that's on sale. Jamestown Plus, no dice. We've got I really want to rebuy the Trackmania games on my second account so that I can do LAN games with my son. Let's see if they're on sale. Trackmania. We're checking it out right now. Nope. That's a big nope ski for me. Oh well. If you run Steam, then pop in and take a look at the sale. Otherwise, we're going to talk about some other stuff, some racing games, some old school games. Might discuss the 3DO a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Stick with us. We're listening to some chiptunes. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. That is Chip Champion appearing on the old Winter Chip 14 album. Hemrock, I know in the email you sent that we'll read later in the show, you had some suggestions from Winterchip 15. I appear to not have that one. I thought I did. I guess I don't. Maybe I didn't add it to my Bandcamp, and I don't know where I have the zip file squirreled away somewhere. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be here. And I spent quite a bit of time looking for it, so that's about as close as I could come. So more stuff on that to come in a little bit later on. For now, I want to talk about something I saw over on our good buddy Desm's channel. Desm101, who writes into the show quite frequently. He's a friend of the show. He opened up the world of Sega Saturn for me. Good guy. So I popped over to Desm's channel. I was like, hey, let's see what he's got, because I know he does good videos, and I also know that I haven't given his channel near enough watch time. Got a lot of good stuff over there, so I wanted to go see some of it. So headed over to his channel, started clicking around, and I ended up sitting down and watching an essay on the racing games for the 3DO. It was very, very good. I didn't. Here's the funny thing about the 3DO, Desm. I remember clearly when the 3DO was coming out. I remember this. Okay, I remember talking about it with my older brother because I was younger then. You got to understand, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. Okay. So I was the baby. The second youngest, my older brother, we were all boys except for the oldest. She's my sister. But the second youngest and I, when we were very young, were a pair. And I always thought he was the coolest in the world. And I remember being very young, and he was trying to explain the concept of the 3DO. We had a couple conversations like this when I was young. Like, I also remember him explaining what the Super Nintendo was going to be before it came out. But anyway, he was telling me about the 3DO, and the way he explained it, he's like, it's like a video game, only it's not put together with tiny little squares like the Nintendo is. It's real life. It captured my imagination, his description of the 3DO. It's real life, man. Which, by the way, his description of Super Nintendo before it came out was very similar. So we were in the mall one day, because that was still a place people went back in those days. People would go to the mall to buy products and look at things. We were at the mall, and I can't even remember what we were doing, but we weren't there for something that had anything to do with video games. And one of the shops had a 3DO set up in the window. And that remains the only time I've ever seen a 3DO in person up and running. I remember it was like on a menu screen. I have no idea what kind of game it was, but I'm inclined to think it was like either a racing game or like a plane type game. But I clearly remember a menu screen, either a menu screen or a pause screen, like it was not in gameplay. And there was a little window where there was a full motion video person talking. Hey, you got to do this, that, or the other in order to get the thing and whatnot. And I remember seeing, because you got to understand, there was no PlayStation at this time. At least not for me. I don't think so. I got to go back and look at when the 3DO came out. But this was something that was before the PlayStation and after Super Nintendo. So at this time, everything was pixels. Okay? It was all pixels. So this was like really the first time I saw any like FMV to speak of. I remember seeing some early FMV in computer demos, right? I remember being in like a Walden's or something, or an Egghead Software, if you remember Egghead Software, with my dad, and there was like the 11th Hour or the 7th Guest or one of those two games, and it was set up and it was rolling a demo, and I remember being really creeped out, like, whoa man, this is some creepy stuff. So the 3DO, having that memory, is like a really distorted perception of how things really ended up. Because when you actually look at what the 3DO was and what the games on it were actually like, it's very bizarre. Like, it's usually one of these channels that's like, hey, let's look at bad games, where it comes up. So Desm did his breakdown of racing games, and knowing that, it was about what you'd expect. Most of them looked pretty unplayable. I was surprised to hear about the Need for Speed. That series apparently was born on the 3DO. I had no idea. I have Need for Speed, the first game. I've got it on the Sega Saturn, and it's the oldest Need for Speed game I've ever played. But apparently, yeah, 3DO was where it was at, and I had no idea that it was a weird magazine tie-in either, like a Road and Track magazine tie-in. I've got the Saturn version. It says Road and Track right on it. The PlayStation 1 does as well. I didn't know. I didn't know what that meant. That's a game that has weird origins, man. That was weird to see, the 3DO version of Need for Speed, because I've always liked the early Need for Speed games, but not that early. I remember Need for Speed 3, Need for Speed 2 and 3 on the PlayStation 1 when they were coming out. Okay, first game I don't remember. That I wasn't paying attention in those days. But 2 and 3, I had a friend who lived right on the other side of the block from me, who got a hold of, I want to say it was 3. It was the Hot Pursuit, but not the modern Hot Pursuit. Like if you look up Need for Speed Hot Pursuit on Steam, not that game. It was an earlier game. He got a hold of that for the PlayStation, and man, we loved that game. That had split-screen multiplayer. He would bring it up to my place. We would race against each other and run from the cops. It was great. It was a great game. I got a hold of that for the PC in a big box edition, which, I would love to have it today. It was a gorgeous box and a gorgeous game. To be honest, I didn't play the PC version much because by that time I was playing Quake and I was playing Counter-Strike and that sort of thing. But I had it, played it a few times, loved it. Wish I could get it again. Yeah, so that era of Need for Speed, I remember very well. I remember trying the second game, like the one that was just before that, and liking it. I remember getting Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed. I don't know if that was the very next game or not, but it was very soon after that. And I liked that one as well. But then I kind of left the series alone for a long time. And I went back to it later in life, and thinking it had gotten weird at some point. Like I think it was called Undercover. That's an old game too by now. Oh, excuse me. That's an old game too by now, but Need for Speed Undercover. I remember thinking, when I first got that game, I was like, oh man, I haven't played a Need for Speed game in forever. I used to love these. You'd run from the cops and they could pull you over and give you tickets and stuff. It was weird. And then I put that game on and it was like this weird UPN made for TV style FMV late era Hollywood undercover nonsense. It's like, I just want to drive my car. Come on now. I don't know. I couldn't make sense out of it. It was a weird thing. And it was a shame because I remember clearly playing that game, Need for Speed Underground. I think it was called Need for Speed Underground. Playing that and that moment being the moment that the Need for Speed series lost all its magic for me. And it, as far as I'm concerned, at least in my heart, it never did recover from that. Because soon after that, it became like I'm pretty sure it's like an origin thing now. Is that right? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it confused with Burnout Paradise. But it was awesome to see the original Need for Speed in Desm's video showcased a little bit because it had a little bit more polish. At least visually, it had a little bit more polish than the Sega Saturn version had. It looked like it ran a little slow, but that's okay. I mean, I like the vintage racing games. So vintage. One of the things about vintage racing games is the physics are always wonky. You have to be able to just adapt to however the game is made, because there were very, very few racing games that really got it right when you go that long ago. There were some really good ones, but it was very few. It's not like it is now. Yeah, so I really dug it. If you've never watched a Desm video, I would say watch that Sega Saturn video breakdown. And as soon as I finished that, it was like a 20-minute video. I jumped right into he had a similar, much older a Sega Saturn racing game video. And I was like, oh, of course, let's watch this. But I had to get up. My 8-month-old son required assistance like 2 minutes after I started that one. So I have yet to go back and watch that. But this is just a little tip of the hat to our good buddy Desm, who, by the way, has been in the group for a good long time now. And I'm just kind of like discovering something really cool. You did a good job with your channel, man. You got some good stuff on there. I've listened to your DJing stuff before, but I dug into your video game content really for the first time just the other night. So thanks for that. It made me want to really put some more money into getting my Saturn up and running. I've been saving my money for synthesizer equipment because that's where my thing is at right now. But I got to do some. I would love to do some more video game stuff. The video game stuff is tough because it's like, if I'm gonna spend money on video games, I want to do something that I can do like with my kids, or something at least that my kids can inherit. So I try to get I don't know, like how can I put this? I don't know. My kids aren't gonna want to play Myst. Do you know what I'm saying? My kids aren't gonna want to play. I'm looking around my office. I was gonna say my kids aren't gonna want to play Battle Arena Toshinden 2 on the PlayStation 1, but they might actually. I don't know. I haven't bought really a lot of video games lately, and yeah, I don't know. I'm looking for the next big target. If I were to get a video game, I had been buying these PlayStation 1 games from Japan, ordering super cheap imports. We talked about this last couple of weeks. And this past week, I really kind of came to the realization that they're not coming. It's been 2 months, they're not coming. And let me tell you guys, it broke my heart. It broke my heart, man. I know we talked about this last week. I'm still sore about it. My games aren't coming. They're not going to get here. I reached out to the dealer because I ordered we're talking like 10 plus games that are in transit now, not totaling at not a lot of money worth, maybe $10, maybe $10, maybe $15, something like that, but a lot of games. So I reached out to the guy on one of the games, which was Dragon Quest VII for the original PlayStation with the case and everything, which I settled on at like $2, and I sent him a message saying, hey, is this one still coming? It's okay if it's taking a long time. I just need to know it's still coming. And he responded by issuing a refund. I'm okay with the delay. It just reaches a point where it's like, I don't think it's coming anymore. I don't know, man. I don't know. It is what it is. But we're going to stay positive. We're staying positive here on Tiger Claw Radio this week. Do you know what I would like to do a video on? And of course I'm not going to do this, because if I'm doing a video right now, I'm going to be working on my Suikoden video. There was, we talked last week a little bit about the original Twisted Metal and how it like somehow became, at least in the instances I saw, it became an expensive game. I saw 2 different auctions settle at $30+ last week, which is way more than I thought the original Twisted Metal would be. But there were a lot of really good, like, Hollyweird era FMV scenes that were shot for the original Twisted Metal that were entirely cut from the game. And I don't know where they were dug up, but all that stuff is on YouTube now. And I remember a couple of years ago seeing this and thinking, man, if they put these full motion video scenes in the original Twisted Metal, they were right up there with the first Resident Evil, man. Right up there. I sorely wish that they were included in that game. Somebody should make an original Twisted Metal ROM hack with those old FMV scenes ripped off of YouTube and put back in the game in place of the scrolling text that we actually got. because that would be truly something special. And you know what else is special? Our Patreon sponsors. This is the part 20 minutes into the show. I like to take a minute to thank the Patreon sponsors, because it is a Patreon-sponsored program. These guys give of their resources to make sure I can come back every single week to hang out, talk about some video games, take a look at what's on sale, click around on my boys' channels, and really see what's up. I got some black tea, I got some chip tunes. We're having a good time. So to them, I offer early access to the show. I'm recording this on Thursday night. We're 20 minutes in. It's Thursday night because I want to make a Friday release this week. Those have gotten really difficult to do, but I'm going to come through because these guys have come through for me. So I offer them early access to the show. Whenever I do something supporter exclusive, they get it. You know they do. And I also read their names here on the air, off in somewhat of a hall of distinguished gentlemen. And they are Hemrock, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Duravka, Konstantin Kelman, and Eric Controller. What do you think, gentlemen? Are we having a good time? I hope so. Let's play another chiptune. This time, we're going to dig back. Here's a release that I picked up a couple of months back when I was looking for new chiptunes to play. And I downloaded it and I played some tracks off of it, and then I stuck it away on my hard drive and kind of forgot about it. And then I noticed it just a few minutes ago, but just before I went on the air. It's called Chip Love Volume 1, and it's a chiptune compilation that has a lot of familiar names on it. We see Gwem is on here, Antler, where the A is a 4. We played him on the show here. Popsicle Theory, also played on the show. He's on this thing. This one, I hope this isn't too chilled. I guess that's kind of long. Hang on a second, we got one. Yeah, this is perfect. Triac. Triac, all caps. Beauty and the Beat. Off of Chip Love Volume 1. It's free download on Bandcamp. Go pick it up. It's good stuff. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. We'll be right back. I'm still playing Saints Row. Not daily anymore, but I beat Saints Row 2. I'm playing through Saints Row 3. It's going very well. I'm having a good time. I'm a little disappointed that the Steam sale that I mentioned at the top of the show, we don't have Get Out of Hell on sale yet, because I don't own that game. That'd be cool to buy. But I went back and I installed... There's a big-time mod pack for Saints Row 2 called Gentlemen of the Row. It's supported by the Volition, or at least it was at the time. And it's you download it, and it's one of these things where it's not a single mod, but rather a pack of mods, and it has a very simple install, and it shows you a menu of different things you can install, different mods, like replacing certain like gang groups with other things. Like, okay, you can replace the preppy choice of gangbangers with zombies or something like that. It adds new cars, like hundreds of new cars, hundreds of clothing items. It adds new shops. One of the things about Saints Row 2 was that the mall was hidden, so it replaces the map with a duplicate copy that just has the word mall penned into it. So that was really cool. So I actually went back and went from Saints Row 3 back to Saints Row 2, and I replayed that a little bit today. It's a fun game. I kind of wish... Look, I played through it vanilla, okay? It's like Skyrim. I wanted to play Skyrim vanilla before I started digging into mods. I'm not saying I was going to play it all the way through, but I want to play the vanilla experience first. It makes the most sense, right? Same with Morrowind. I play Morrowind hacked up right now, right? I'll never play vanilla again, but I played it vanilla enough to understand what it was like without mods. I wish I'd started with Gentlemen of the Row. If you're going to get Saints Row 2, and I recommend that you do, because it's a good game. It is a really good game. Get Gentlemen of the Row. It's the greatest mod for anything ever. So says the community hub on Steam. I don't know if that's true, but actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up. A lot of you guys are PC guys, with the exception of Death Adder. What actually is the greatest mod for anything ever? What is it? I don't know. I really had to put some thought into it. And let's just say you can pick anything, okay? You could even pick, say, Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike was a mod. Gary's mod was a mod at one point, right? It was commercially available, but I guess it was still a mod. What do you think is the greatest mod for anything ever? What's a mod that breathed new life into a video game and really sustained interest in that game long after you would have lost interest otherwise? I don't know. Would Quake World count because it really revitalized the online scene for Quake? Or maybe Team Fortress. Maybe the original Team Fortress is probably the most played mod I've ever played. Just hundreds and hundreds of hours going back in and playing Team Fortress. I don't know. What do you guys think? I want to hear your stories about mods. That feeling when you install a mod and it really opens your eyes to a game. Isn't that awesome? That's the reason why we do mods, right? Yeah, you do them to fix things, right? Like I talked about Morrowind a few minutes ago. The ones that I have are primarily to fix things. Fix the arrow weight system, fix some issues with the combat, that sort of stuff. That's how it started. But the real good ones, the real awesome thing is like when you're like, okay, we're gonna add a watchtower or a lighthouse or whatever it is. We're gonna add new buildings, new people. We're gonna change things. That is awesome. So what's the time that happened? Could it be Mount and Blade? The Mount and Blade total conversion that makes it a Star Wars game? That's pretty sweet. That's one of those mods that I remember years afterwards. Or maybe it was the first time I ever played They Hunger for Half-Life. Yeah, I know it's just like a weird little thing you can go get on Steam now. Playing, what is it, Apex Co-op or whatever they call it, Sven Co-op, I think it's called. But the first time I ever played They Hunger, I was at a friend's house, and he had a copy of PC Gamer magazine, because It's kind of a trash heap now, but at one point PC Gamer was really sweet. And he showed me a featured article on They Hunger, and he was like, "This, man, I want to play this." And I was at his house. Kid's name was Matt, and I was like, "Yeah, man, I have Half-Life. I'm gonna set this up when I get home." And I did. I went home and I looked it up. We were on dial-up internet at the time. We had America Online. So I had to very, very slowly download They Hunger, but I surely did, and I played it, and man, oh man, that was awesome. Not a perfect mod. I wouldn't name that as my favorite mod of all time, but that was truly an awesome mod experience, playing They Hunger for the first time, because that is a drastic change in gameplay. Okay? I don't know. I guess it's still a first-person shooter, and that's what Half-Life is. But the setting was drastically different, you know? You could argue that the Mount & Blade one is more drastic because it changes the medieval sword game to Star Wars, but I don't know. Play They Hunger if you've never played They Hunger. Jeez Louise, stop looking at me like that. Should we do one more? One more chiptune? I'm digging this Chip Love album. I'm really dusting this thing off and getting back into it. I might have to dub this onto a cassette so I can listen to it downstairs with my kids. I don't know. But this is the lead-off track off of the Chip Lube. Oh, I blew that one. Chip Love Volume 1. It's from Victor Kraus. Viktorkraus. And the name of the song is Chip Chop. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Back in the studio, it's time for the fail bag. You know what time it is, boys and girls. It's time to interact with me and you and me. Comments, questions, anything you want read on the air. Best place to do it is on YouTube. You can head over to YouTube and leave a comment, or if you know me personally, you can send me an email. Just if you go that route, be clear about what I can and can't say on the air, just so that we have no oopsie daisies that we can't take back. And speaking of which, we're going to start out with an email that we got from my good buddy Hemrock. And you'll have to give me a second because I'm navigating to my email right now. You'd think I'd have it all pulled up. Not quite. I'm still loading because Gmail, they like to have their flashy animations now. So it makes it take longer to load because that's what good products do. Still loading, by the way. My goodness, I miss the old days of text. We have the next turn in the Gentleman in Space game of Alpha Centauri. Long running. I wish I knew how long that game's been running now. At least a year, probably more. But here's his failbag email. He says, "Hey CF, I hope you and the fam are doing well. Thank you for answering my questions in the last episode. You mentioned importing PS1 games recently. Have you ever thought about buying the Japanese Tales of Fantasia game? ROMhacking.net has a translation that you could easily apply to backing up to your backup ISO. The disc would run you about $10 to $15 on eBay. It looks like a game you might like. Do you plan on updating the TCRarchive.org page in the near future? It looks like it only goes up to episode 281. All right, quick break to talk about the TCR archive. I know a couple of people have come on since the last time I worked on that. I have a page over on archive.org that I use to host past episodes of TCR. TCR has been around a lot longer than I've been on YouTube. I think we started doing it on YouTube, an episode like around the 170s, like 173 or something like that. But if you go to the old archive.org page, that goes all the way back to episode 1, and then there's an episode 0, which was a pilot, which I initially didn't release until later. Yeah, so it's all there. So, yes, the answer is yes. I honestly did not know when the most recent episode was, so hopefully in the next week or so, I can go on and just have an uploading party and get it all up to date. I want to make sure that the archive.org stays updated at least every now and then, at least a couple of times a year, so that if anything happens to my YouTube channel, all those old episodes are still there. That's primarily what I'm concerned about, because you know how YouTube is, especially since I play songs on the show, you know, something could happen and my 10-plus-year-old channel could just have the rug pulled out from under it at any moment. So in modern day YouTube, it's something you got to prepare for. You also asked about Tales of Fantasia. It looks awesome. I think you mentioned it before a couple weeks back when I first started talking about importing PS1 games. Probably around the time I was playing like 2 Extreme and Cool Borders 3 and that sort of stuff. Yes, it looks dope. I'm probably not going to get any more imports until this COVID thing is over, though, because I was just heartbroken that my imports that I ordered are not coming. There is more. Let's get back to the email and see what else he's got. He says, I am now a happy owner of the Core Graphics Mini console. It's essentially the same software as the up-and-coming North American TurboGrafx 16 Mini. It's just smaller in physical form factor. Has all the same games, including Dungeon Explorer. I had to set up a Japanese Amazon account to get the console, but I don't regret it. Let me know when/if TCR Fest comes to town, as I think this would be a great party system. Awesome. Sounds good. If you're taking chiptune recommendations, I have a few here. Fairy Crusaders 3 by Galgox from Winter Chip 15. 8 Days with Z from Tobikomi from Winter Chip 15. And Baby's Still Too Fat by Starship Amazing. Good old Starship Amazing. You ever heard Starship Amazing, kiddo?
No, but I like the name of the song.
Starship Amazing this was like before I found out what chiptunes was. They were like the first electronic group that I really got into. Back in, I think 2007 or maybe 2008 was when I first heard them. It's good stuff. It's core electronic music.
I like the name. Baby Still Too Fat.
This is a true story. I actually had you in my lap when you were like 6 months old, and I got to talk when I was talking to those guys on Skype when you were a brand new baby. It's pretty cool. He writes, what's your favorite OS and why? Keep up the good work, my friend, Hemrock. What is my favorite OS?
What's it stand for?
Operating system. Like Windows. I almost said Windows. Because it's from the game, you know. I had a lot of fun with Linux Mint. I wouldn't say it's my favorite OS because compatibility is such an issue. What is my favorite OS? I don't know. I'm really trying to avoid saying Windows 10 because it has the most compatibility with my games. Because it really isn't my favorite OS. Everybody uses Windows 10 begrudgingly. Nobody's like, oh, I love Windows 10. Darf. It probably is Linux Mint. Linux Mint probably is. Linux Mint like 17 around that era is probably my favorite OS ever. Because that was when I really got to see how awesome Linux was. And it made it so that I could use my computer before I could afford a good OS. So that was an important step. Like I was able to budget and design my computer without having to worry about the cost of an OS. And then once I got everything together, I could use it until I got the money together to get Windows. So for that, it was huge. So Linux Mint, best ever. You have some chiptune recommendations from Winter Chip 15. I mentioned this at the top of the show, but I went looking for that album. I could not find it. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe I'll have to pony up the $5 and get myself a fresh copy. But we'll see. Awesome, Hemrock. Thanks so much for the email. It's always good to hear from you, brother. Hope you're doing well over on your side of planet Earth. And have a good week, my friend. Let's go back to YouTube, and we're gonna check the comments and see what we got for this past week. I seem to remember there being a good bit, so stick with me. Let's uncheck comments I haven't responded to. Oh, I see. This one's in a specific video, and that's no good. We gotta back up. All right, I'm gonna pause this here. First comment's coming from KT Johnson. KT Johnson is an old cat, been around a long time. Been a while since I heard from him, but if you check out his channel and go way back, this guy did some really amazing stuff with Famitracker. So he writes, I saw a few Twin Famicom consoles when I was at Super Potato in Japan back in August 2019. I would have bought one, but it would have been a major pain to take back to America on a plane with me. I also remember you when you were on RetroWare TV with the R-Dub Force. I totally remember your RPG Maker game, Kolteka. Thanks, man. That's so cool. Yeah, being on RetroWare TV was fun times. I wasn't a real RetroWare TV lineup guy. I was only in the R-Dub Force, but it was enough at the time. Let's talk about your Japan trip. How did that go? Because people talk about going to Japan and places like Super Potato being like the video game mecca, right? Where you can just get games for cheap. But is it really, are the games really reasonably priced? Because I get mixed reports. Some people say it's amazing. You go and you can get the thing and it's fine. And some people say it's like a tourist trap and you're better off just getting it off of eBay from some Japanese dealer that sells the old Nintendo stuff. They do look like gorgeous systems, though, man. I like the Famicom games. Indeed, I do. Yeah, okay, that's that. That was split up into a couple of consoles. A couple of consoles. Whew, I blew that one. Couple of comments. The next one, which I haven't listened to yet, is an audio comment from our good buddy Balzac. CasLab208. Have not listened to this yet, so we're going to listen to it together. Stick with me here.
So hello again. How you doing? So before I get into some other topics that are not so great, I want to talk a little bit about Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I want to get your take on it again, because I remember you were saying before this game was going to come out that you didn't see this game looking good at all. I want to give one take that I actually ended up buying it full price when it first came out because the government sent me a check for $1,200 and I said, F it, I got this sweet stimulus check and I don't know what to do with it, so might as well buy this video game since I don't know if the world's going to end or not. And you know what? I kind of half agree with you on what you were saying and half disagree, because after having beaten it now, after clocking in about 35 hours into it, I would say it was okay. It was perfectly fine for what it was, but if you're expecting something more than just a faithful adaptation, then you're going to kind of be disappointed. And I kind of was, even though I was already expecting a faithful adaptation, mostly because I think the main problem with this game is that it stretches out things that would have only taken you 10 minutes in the original into like 3 to 4 hours. So I think it was a detriment for me because I played the original and I knew what was already going on. But for maybe new players that didn't know about any of the original structure of the original, I think it probably would be a pretty good introduction. But I don't know. I think now I might just try to play the original game now because when I was playing this remake, I was always thinking, man, I think the original did this a little bit better because of the certain things, and also because I have more of a personal connection to the original game than this remake one. But if you don't have a PS4, which I know you obviously don't, I would not recommend this at all. Like I wouldn't really call this a system seller. I already had a PS4 anyway, so it was no big deal for me. But for your case, where you don't have a PS4, I would not recommend it. But it's gonna be coming out to PC and the Xbox game consoles next year, so maybe it might be worth checking out when you can get it for $10 on a Steam sale. But even for $60, that might be too big of a price to pay. Even though there's a lot of game in it, that might be too big of a price to pay. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, shout out to Hemrock. I know you recently finished Final Fantasy VII on the Switch from your regular text comment you sent to TCR a couple weeks ago. And I wanted to know if you were interested in this remake as well, because I was curious to know if, oh man, would Hemrock be into this game if he ever got a chance to play it? Because I don't really know if you have any modern consoles or not, but I wouldn't really recommend buying a PS4 just for this game. But if you have a PC that could be strong enough to run this game on PC when it comes out next year, then maybe I would recommend it. But I just wanted to know what your take was on this whole Final Fantasy remake thing that's going on. Okay, so also, speaking of which, I also finished Sonic Adventure 1 on the Dreamcast, and I was kind of curious, did you ever get into the Sonic games on the Dreamcast by any chance? They're actually pretty good games. I just replayed, so this is my third playthrough of Sonic Adventure that I finished, and it was pretty fun still. I really had a lot of fun with it. And I was just curious because I know you have a Dreamcast and copies of Sonic Adventure aren't very expensive. But Adventure 2, though, that might cost you a little bit more, maybe about $30 to $40. Or if you really want to go to another way, these games are also on the PC as well for inexpensive prices. So that's also another option to look into. So I wanted to get, not to pry too much into your personal life, but I was kind of curious, is your kid going to be going back to school for the next semester by any chance? Because here in California, the schools are now, they're going to be online September all the way to January for some schools where they're going to be online until then. So I was kind of curious if your kid was in the same boat as everybody else's kid here in California. And I wonder if they're excited about being in school online again like everybody else. I don't know. I just hope that this whole COVID situation kind of dies down already because, as you already know, E3 and Comic-Con got canceled over here because of the whole COVID situation. So, and I'm going to give a guess that MagFest 2021 is also going to be canceled if this thing doesn't clear up by September, which I'm just hoping that everything will be, taken care of by the end of the summer. But if not, then we'll just have to just keep trucking along then, right? I'm sure you don't really miss, having to have a long commute to work anymore and you're able to spend time with your family at home. But let's just hope everything goes back to the way it was before all this stuff went down. So on a little bit of a lighter note to end this all with, I was kind of curious. I remember you were saying, I think back in 2011, you were saying how when your son was going to turn about 3 to 4 years old, you were going to give him your Sega Genesis. And I was going to get kind of curious if you were actually held your word up on that. So, CF Jr., since I know you're on the podcast already, I want to ask, since if you're listening to this audio comment, did your dad make up with his promise and actually give you his Sega Genesis? And he also promised you a bucket of Tiger Electronic games, but I don't really know if you want that, though, because, we have phone games now that blow those kind of games out of the water. So that would be actually a detriment to you if he ended up giving all those to you. The Sega Genesis probably not, because those games are still pretty fun, but not those Tiger Electronic games. Yeah, I don't think those are going to be that great. Okay, so I guess that's it for me for now. Until I send next audio comment, later.
Balzac, my man. Good to hear from you, brother. I got some notes here, and I know you left. By the way, this guy leaves highlights of his comments. The nicest thing in the world, just to make it easy to respond. So I took some notes of my own, but we got to address this Sega Genesis thing first, because Junior's right here. So why don't I let him answer?
Okay, here's the list of things I got from my dad. The point is, he gave me absolutely nothing.
That is not fair. That is not fair.
I don't remember.
You and I have had this conversation probably 3 times over the years. All right. What he's talking about is the old Model 2 Sega that I had. The oldest one of all 3 of my Segas. Also probably the most valuable. And yes, I still have it for you, but each one of the 3 times you told me you didn't want it. So I figured I'd put it away until you were older. You asked me for, guys, get this. He wants the At Games Sega. That's the one he wants, right? That the one you want? So let's make it clear, because I know you're not familiar with the models. The At Games Sega is the one where it has the rewind button on it. You know that one?
Yes.
It's the one that Hemrock gave me for Christmas like 3+ years ago. Right? That's the one you like, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the At Games Sega. I don't know where the AC adapter is, but if we find that thing, it's yours. The only reason I haven't given it to you is because you don't have a TV to hook it up to, and you'd still have to pay your tokens to play it.
Yes. And I think it's perfectly fine with me if I don't get those Tiger Electronic games, since I hear they're a little awful.
Let's try this. And by the way, see over there behind the clock? Can you pull that out for me?
That is one of the Sega Genesis.
This is what he's pulling out right now is a Model 3 Sega Genesis. You guys know that. It's a little tiny one. So I've bought that since I said I was going to give you a Sega. All right? So when I initially made the promise, it was my Sega, the one I had when I was a young man in college. But you can pick any one of the 3. Just talk. Just talk to me.
Okay. Let it go. Let it go.
Don't do that. He's holding it over his head and he's threatening to drop it. That's my Sega, man.
No, I was not going to drop
You have to leave one of the Segas in working order for me. That's the deal. I have 3 of them. You can pick your pick. Let's try this. I think this is a good exercise on the air while we're here. Yeah, you can put that. That works. You see the 2 shoe boxes, the brown boxes on the bottom shelf on the right. They say Reebok. Okay. One of them is full right down there underneath the TV.
Okay.
So there's 2 shoe boxes. These are big shoe boxes, like the size you would find construction boots in. One of them is full of all my portables. Okay, it's got Game Boys in it, and it's got my Wonder Swan and all that stuff. The other one has exclusively Sega Genesis games. Why don't you pull it out and take a look?
Which one has the Sega Genesis game?
Probably the bottom one, because I was playing with the Game Boys recently.
Of course it's got to be on the bottom one, the one that's going to take longer for me to get to. Give me a minute, guys.
All right, while he's pulling that out, let's address some of the other stuff in the comment. So he talked about getting, first of all, props on getting Final Fantasy VII with the stimulus check. That's dope. We had to put ours, well, we didn't have to, but the smart move for me and most family men is let's put it away and use it for the children somehow.
Yep.
Somehow. So I'm glad to hear that you had some fun with it. I settled into the idea of Final Fantasy VII Remake just not being my thing. I don't know. I'd like to think that, because people are really excited. I mean, there were a good amount of people who really did have fun with this game. I would like to think that there is something there. It's just I'm not the target demo anymore. I'm not. I'm curmudgeon-y old guy, just like you. Just like you, my man. We are from the ilk that would more commonly like that original game. Okay, I think that is the opinion I've settled on to keep myself from standing and screaming out of my window at the rest of the world at the state of video games. All right, now we're going to take a break. I got a couple more questions off of this auto cam and I want to address Kiddo. So
I'm here.
He's here. He's looking at he's got a big box filled with Sega Genesis games of all kind in there. So, back when I used to say this on the air, several people who listen, most notably Sendu of Light Studios, he gave me a bunch of Sega Genesis games because the idea was you would acquire it when I get older, or when you get older. So that box, you will inherit that whole box if you want it. Is there anything in there that looks good to you?
Well, I see.
But bring it up here and talk to us.
I see. One sec. I see some good Sonic games.
There's a lot of Sonic games. Yep.
Bubble Bottle.
Bubble Bobble.
Not Bubble Bottle. Now I messed up. How the heck do you pronounce this one?
That is Raiden Trad. Raiden, the shooting game, the shmup. There was a Sega Genesis port.
I'm pretty sure I've played that before, and it's pretty good.
Yep, it's a good game.
Mega Man.
Raiden has been on a lot of systems. You know where I got that from? That was one of Sendu's. He's flipping through them right now. Fix It Felix. That was from the retro box. I have a feeling that was Sendu's. I don't know that for sure, though.
Yeah, we got some cool games here.
Populous does not work, but I can't bring myself to throw it out. Contra Hardcore, that's an awesome game. He's looking at Metal Sonic, also a classic. Let's see what else he pulls out. Castlevania Blood. That isn't a genuine copy of Castlevania Bloodlines. I got it for $11, and it's gone way up in price since then. Tony La Russa Baseball, which still has how much did I pay for Tony La Russa Baseball? This was back when you could find loose video games at the thrift store. 99 cents, and it's written in crayon. 99. I kind of want to play Sega Genesis
Is it
now.
99 cents or $99?
Look at this. I've got the. Have you ever played this?
99 cents.
This is the Sonic the Hedgehog creepypasta game. You can see the Sega Genesis logo is covered in blood. The black and white paint. You ever played this?
No.
It's Silly Bo Billy.
What's the idea?
Sonic dies. Everybody in it dies. No, you play as Tails. That's the thing. And Tails is really scared, and it plays the drowning music in Sonic the Hedgehog that goes dun 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 dun. Do you remember that? You played Sonic. That music plays, and you play as Tails, and you're trying to run, and Sonic comes out and gets him. And it goes, Wah! The whole game lasts like, I don't know, a minute maybe, tops.
Is there even anything to do while you're waiting for Sonic to kill you?
You can try and run through the level. It's a spooky, scary game. I don't know what possessed me to buy it. I found it, it's Sonic the Hedgehog is written backwards on the top.
Like, dude, what the heck is wrong with that?
This is a reproduction cartridge that I got from AliExpress, and I think I paid $3.50 for it. It was when I was in this kick of buying games like that. Although I didn't. He has lost interest already. So you can see that he doesn't value the Sega Genesis the way you and I value the Sega Genesis, and there was no way for me to see that coming back in 2011. So if he wants it, it's here, and I've got 3 different Segas to choose from: a Model 2, a Model 3, and a weird clone at Games version. I can only assume that he'll get older and maybe want to have it one day. I don't know, but we'll see. Maybe not, but it's his. I made good on that, and I haven't let go of a single one of my Sega Genesis games. Furthermore, back in the day, I used to make a stipulation that I wasn't going to include expensive games when I gave it to him, just because I really just wanted to hold on to my copy of Gunstar Heroes. Now that he's 11, yeah, I would throw Gunstar Heroes in there.
I'm 10.
Aren't you 13? Ow. All right. What else did we talk about in the audio comment? Sonic Adventure 1. You ever played Sonic Adventure, kiddo?
No.
I remember playing those a little bit when they came out. I've had Sonic Adventure 1 on Steam forever. But I to be honest, I haven't messed with it much. I remember hearing that there was something wrong with the Sonic Adventure that Steam sells. Like, it's actually the DS game and not the Dreamcast game. I don't know. I've heard over and over again that the original Sonic Adventure was a super slick game, and it's like the one modern Sonic game that's actually super duper worth your time. I never went back and played it. Not because I had anything personal against it. It's just one of those games. You know, like Mecha Menace was ragging on me a couple weeks ago about how I have a backlog on Steam that extends back almost a decade. Yeah, that's one of those games that just happens to be in that backlog. I do have a Dreamcast, yes, but I only own one authentic Dreamcast game. Only one, and it's Dead or Alive 2. You asked about school. Yeah, school's canceled here until for the rest of the year, and they're doing the at-home school in its place. It seems to be going well. So they found a way to make it work, and they're living, and the county is doing everything they can to try and help the kids, and we're following along and doing everything we can to help as well. So we're all making it. This whole COVID thing is a weird situation, but I think people are doing a good job of making the best of it. I know it can bum you out when you hear things about like Comic-Con and whatnot being canceled, but don't let it get you down, man. It would be worse if they didn't cancel it and everybody went and got sick. I'm okay missing MagFest for a year. I'm okay with that. We'll miss it, and then when COVID calms down and it's safe to go back out again, we'll hold a TigerCon, a Tiger Fest somewhere. It'll just be me and a couple of the boys, and maybe Junior here. And somebody will figure out some way to get a TurboGrafx 16, and we'll pre-plan the party games, and we'll play the multiplayer party games deep late into the night, and we're gonna pick a spot where there's a cheap hotel room. We'll organize it so that someone brings a CRT, and we'll have a Waffle House right in the same exit that we're staying at, so we can play all night, and at 2 a.m. when we're finally ready to hang it up, we can go down to Waffle House, drink an entire pot of coffee, and then get right back to it. Because isn't that just the way it goes? That to me sounds like a killer convention. Because really the best part of the last couple years of MagFest, really the best part, was just chilling out in the room with my boys. That's really when the most fun is had. So, Don't worry about your favorite convention being canceled. We'll host our own. Okay? We're going to make it happen. Did we have anything? I think that's all of the stuff. Online schooling, E3 2020, Comic-Con, and potentially MagFest being canceled. It happens. To be honest, I'm more bummed out about the XFL being canceled, because I really did get into the XFL, which I didn't see happening. They're saying that it's possible that the only reason why the XFL declared bankruptcy was so that Vince McMahon could secretly buy it back out of bankruptcy and then avoid having to pay the cost of keeping it running through COVID, which is very strange. But an awful lot of people lost their jobs, so he could do that if that's the case. I don't know. I dug the XFL. It was very sad to hear it go under. It'd be cool to see it come back, but I'm trying not to hold my breath. I think that's everything from the audio comment. Those are always a blast, man. Thanks for shooting one my way. I thoroughly appreciate it. Hope your life is good. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're enjoying Final Fantasy VII Remake. Sure, it isn't. It's not going to replace the original. It just isn't. This is not one of those games that took the original and brought it to a new generation. But it's a fun little. Was it a fun little game? Did you find moments in it that you enjoyed? When you talk about 5-minute portions of the original game being stretched out to an hour, you know what that makes me think of? Have you ever played Tomb Raider Anniversary? I was a big fan of the original Tomb Raider, the very first game. Of all the Tomb Raider games, and I've played almost all of them, that was always my favorite. So to see it remade was a big deal, okay? And it was kind of the same way as the way I look at this Final Fantasy VII Remake. A lot of the moments that were really special, like the dinosaur coming out and whatnot, were kind of ruined. They kind of messed it up. They tried to make them grand, and it just really sort of poo-pooed all over it. And some of the moments that were really little and inconsequential, like the waterfall first half portion of the third level, they tried to add puzzles to those to stretch them out, and it just made it even weirder. It wasn't a bad game, but it wasn't a replacement for that original. That's kind of the way I look at Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't really know a whole lot about it. You could probably say a whole lot more than me if you put 35 hours into it, but It's not meant to replace the original, is it? I don't think so. I hope you had fun with it, though, man. All right, we got one from Death Adder. He writes, pushes up duct tape eyeglasses. Technically, I left a comment under my original one, saying to void the desert the desert island part. Yeah, I said that wrong, because it was a bit too extreme. Heavy breathes and readjusts eyeglasses. But you're using a PS4 to escape the island was a brilliant idea, lol. It's a pretty loaded question. I feel like I'd go with my first 4 consoles, the NES, the PS1, N64 for maximum nostalgia feels, and then either the PS3 or the 360 for a number 5, just because I love that generation of games. Yeah, you got some good choices here. You went with a couple. Part of the stipulation was that you would get the entire library of the system, so you'd want to pick systems, at least a couple of systems that have super extensive libraries. PS1 is a good choice for that. Had a lot of games. A lot. 360 had a lot of games as well. PS3, also enormous library. Those should make up for the very small library you'll get with that N64. Have fun with what's an awful game on the N64? I don't know. Have fun with an awful game on the N64. Have fun with a Nintendo 64 version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, when you already have it on the PS1. Mecha Menace responds, I can't imagine someone online taking his cries for help seriously, even if you use the console's inbuilt browser to contact some form of government or police. So you're on an island in the middle of nowhere. Connecting to the internet through a magic box. Oh well, maybe your internet service will provide you, will find you when you pay your bill. Actually, they probably will disconnect you once you haven't paid your bill for a while and you're not answering calls or emails. I imagine a service that could get you fast connectivity in the middle of nowhere would be very expensive. Still, I doubt they would send anyone after you. There's an address for an internet account. If it wasn't on the island, communications would go to that address. I guess it would have to be a dummy address or a magic P.O. box that handles magic requests like these. Magic makes no sense. You have to keep lying to make it work, but there's always a loose end. Okay, Mecha Menace, there is a way to do this to make this reality without magic. You're assuming it's a magic box, and it's all done through supernatural powers. I think this is more of a kidnapping sort of scenario, okay? It's you got somebody like Dr. No or somebody from one of those early James Bond movies who has actually orchestrated this whole thing and built a prison island for you and a couple of your best friends to spend out eternity until your death. And you have internet service. Now, the internet service is probably being billed to Evil Co., the long-standing reputable company that is known for manufacturing shower gaskets, and they just happen to have some island property, just off the coast, a couple of miles, and nobody really knows what's there. But they pay a lot of bills to make sure that service can come in and out. And one of the things they happen to have is a working tower which brings in internet service. That's pretty close to plausible, right? And that's the reason why nobody will come to rescue you, because everything that goes through the internet is being masked and or routed. You're allowed to play games because some of the major game services have been whitelisted for some reason. But you can't get on to say, I don't know, all the .gov sites are all blocked because you're in a prison island, and that's the scenario. So yeah, but. Is there a Waffle House on the island? Because if there's a Waffle House and video games, and it's an island, so that means there has to be a beach there somewhere. I think I'd be all right. What do you think, kiddo? He's looking at the monster manual from Dungeons & Dragons version 2.
What were you talking about?
Being stuck on a desert island with video games. We were talking about how plausible it is to have the internet on a desert island. Mecha Menace seems to assume it can only be done using magic. So having unlimited internet and video games on an island can only be done through magic. I think it could happen through kidnapping. If you kidnapped someone and imprisoned them in sort of a prison island, then you could have it. What do you think?
Why would someone kidnap someone but let them take any of their video games?
Okay, he has never seen a James Bond movie. I almost said a Double Dragon movie. I guess that's the case as well. You okay?
Yes.
He just sort of leaned in really close, but didn't say anything. Almost like he wanted to let me have it, but then he changed his mind in the last minute and pulled back. All right, that was a good comment. I enjoyed that. I enjoy taking the joke too far. It's like one of my favorite things. Mecha Menace writes, I looked at some of those complete Twisted Metal listings you mentioned. There are many listings which ended cheaper. I think those people bid for what they believed would be perfect, no-scratch copy of the game. How can they tell from dimly lit pictures is a mystery. This disc, the disc looks spotless, but a dimly lit black bottom disc hides all scratches. PS1 games scratch the worst, but you usually only have to worry about deep scratches that don't disappear with a tilt of the disc under the light. Those that you can feel as you gently run your fingernail past the groove, or if a patch of the label on the other side is flaked off from the scratching of the tape. Be careful if you run your fingernail over that disc. I tell you, those things are made of tissue paper. PS1 discs are probably as bad as 3DO, CDI, Saturn, or Sega CD games, but maybe the scratches appear more present on a PS1 disc. And then he adds a time signature. Console, does anyone remember the Super Genentari? That's 4, but I think the guy used the 7800 for the Atari part. Yes, I remember the Super Genentari. I don't think it was ever actually commercially available, but I remember the weird guy in a robe showing it off that he made it, and it looked like a vacuum cleaner. Like, it was the most ugly system I have ever seen, but it was also the most bad system. That was before there was any sort of thing. It was like the Retron 5, before you could get a Retro Duo, for what is it, $40, $50, that has a Super Nintendo and a Nintendo on it. Before all that, he's like, I made this big giant vacuum cleaner that plays all 4 systems. And I remember being like, this man must be like a mad scientist. Because not only did he make it, but he's like, I've made it, and you can't have it, because only I've made it, and it's for me, and I will play in my lab, my Nintendo games. Watch as I demo it so that you can see that it works, but you cannot have one, because this is just for mine own. Yes, I remember the Super Genentari. That was early YouTube stuff. Good times. Mecha Menace, man, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're staying safe. Hope life's good for you, brother. Desm101 writes, 11 minutes and 30 seconds in. My importing has stopped due to delays. There is a few things I have my eye on, but the shipping makes me concerned because I hear some people reporting lots of delays, issues, etc. I pre-ordered a Gradius model kit that was supposed to be out by now, but there's no update yet. It's funny you mentioned Narc and Rad Racer. I just picked up a boxed copy of Narc today and a loose Rad Racer. Nice choices. That's awesome, man. So you got... I saw the thumbnail for your Narc bit over on your channel after I read this comment, but I haven't had the chance to sit down and watch it yet. So that was an NES version, right? It's because it's how else can you play Narc, right? There's the NES game, and I think there's also the arcade PCB, and I think that's really it. I don't know if it's on any other systems. Awesome game. Awesome game. Enjoy it, my man. Hope life's good. Hope you're doing well. I've been enjoying your YouTube channel. If this doesn't run too late, I might chill out in my bed and watch Sega Saturn racing games on my phone before I go to sleep. Eric Kentroller says, you and I kind of share the same way we view our channels. I actually prefer this method. This method. Reading is so hard. You and I kind of share the same way we view our channels. I actually prefer this method of socializing to Facebook or Twitter, especially since those sites aren't much more than instant messenger service or a meme machine. I'm also not really into get popular in any way. In one way, I feel like I'm creating a record of who I am and am as a gamer. Naturally, my personality will come through while I'm doing what I love. Secondly, I'm providing a way to hang out with anyone at any time, but also at a time that's convenient for me. Some people I know live many miles away, and my videos make it so whenever they want, they can come see me and hang out when playing a game. Just like you, this is the spot where I hang out with some of my friends. All right, not to get too serious, Eric, but here's a mind blower, okay? If you die, your friends will still get to go back to your YouTube channel at least as long as YouTube is around, and remember their old friend. Okay? This is a real thing that keeps me doing TCR. If something bad happens to me, maybe I don't die. Maybe I'm just not the same anymore. Maybe I can't talk or something like that. My family can go back and listen to 1,000 hours of me talking about video games in a really boring and unfunny manner. Anytime you want, you can listen to me talk about video games long after I'm gone.
Why?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool thing. Yeah, okay, Eric, do you ever listen to Fugazi or Minor Threat? These are bands that I really were into. I'm from Maryland, right? So I'm just across the border. I'm probably like 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. And these were like pride of Washington, D.C. bands. Ian Makai was like a legend over here. So Ian gave an interview where he was talking about his mother. And his mother, growing up, used to record herself doing all sorts of stuff. She used to have a bridge club, and she would record herself at the bridge club. He told a story about how she was testing out these, like, what do you say? It was like a paper mahjong tiles so that she could play mahjong and it wouldn't make the clacking sound. So she just made like a tape of her and her friends playing mahjong for like an hour with these paper tiles. And he talked about how when she was gone, it was really comforting to, anytime he wanted, go hang out with mom again. I don't have that. I lost my old man when I was 14. I have one recording of him, and I don't even have it. It's at my mother's house. Haven't listened to it in 20 years. It's an answering machine that my older brother had. Now, answering machines back in the late 80s and early 90s actually worked from cassette tapes. Real, physical tapes. So my older brother's answering machine service, when you called him, it would say, "You've reached my answering machine. I'm not here, and if I was here, I wouldn't talk to you." And the first message is my dad, who's been dead a long time, saying, you really ought to change that message. It's the only surviving recording I think we have of him. It's at my mom's house. One day I want to hear it again. But it's these recordings, they have a way of jumping over time. And I'm not just talking about death either. Like, my kids have gotten a lot older. I have recordings of us talking when they were much, much younger, and they don't sound like that anymore. And it's just like looking at a picture, like an old family picture. I totally get what you're saying. It's a good reason to do it. Trying to get quote-unquote internet famous for those delicious ad dollars is not the only reason to run a YouTube channel. Let's get some tea here. Eric, brother, hope your life is good, man. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're calling your folks if they're still around. Hope everything's going well for you, man. Thanks for writing in. This is the last one for the week. This one is a comment on a random video. I like to read these comments that my old DOS videos get every once in a while. This one was from the video I made from Vet 1989 MS-DOS from Spectrum Holobyte. Now this video that I made years ago was one of the few ones that did well enough that I got some mean comments, which I very much enjoyed. As a matter of fact, the meanest comment I think I've ever gotten on YouTube in 10 plus years was on this video, and I stickied it, so it's the thumbnail comment. And that comment, I'm trying to bring it up now. Hold on a second. Comments I haven't responded to. That comment reads as follows, and I have to edit it for profanity. "This guy is so stinking high that he forgot what he was doing. You were going to show off the tour mode. Then you just did the race and ended the video like halfway through. What the heck, bro?" That was 8 months ago. It's one of my favorite comments I've ever gotten on YouTube.
My gosh.
All right, this one on that same video came in yesterday. 3 minutes and 35 seconds in. "The reason San Francisco is all brown is from all the homeless people pooing everywhere. All the brown you're seeing is the human fecal matter in what is now San Francisco." Wow, bro. That is dark. That gets a thumbs up and a heart. I think that's all my comments. Did we get it? We read Eric, Desm, Mechamenus, Death Adder. We did the KT Johnson. Oh, here's one. Here's one that I kind of skipped over. This is from James Kirk on the Double Dragon video that I made. This was about Double Dragon. There's a trick to get full hearts. He writes, "Thanks for the video. I'm facing 3 problems with Double Dragon, and I was wondering if you could provide a solution. Number 1, how to get additional lives. Number 2, in Mission 4, how to get past the wall without taking a hit. And number 3, how to kill Machine Gun Willie." I didn't know how to answer. Well, is there more? Oh, would appreciate any insight you can provide. I didn't know how to answer this guy. I never got anywhere in the NES Double Dragon. Even with that trick, I could never really beat the 3rd level. To be fair, I don't think I've really played it seriously in my adult life. I just, every couple of years, I turn it on and punch people for a while, and that's really it. I've beaten the arcade version many times. So, I don't know. If anybody knows the answer to any of his questions, let me know on the air, and then I'll go back and tell him, and take all the credit. Because that's just the kind of guy I am. Is it working now? Alright, boys and girls. We're an hour and 20 minutes in. It's almost 10 o'clock here. I was going to try and finish this by 9, but I didn't even get started by 9. This went way overboard. I hope I'm not in trouble. But I had a good time. And I'm glad you guys all came out in the comments section. That was really awesome. Had some really good comments this past week. On nearly everybody. Swingle, I hope you're doing good out there. Feel free to come and poke fun the way you do. Maybe I'll pronounce something wrong just so I can cajole a good response out of you. Hope you guys are staying safe. Hope everybody's got some good video games to play. Hope you got family you can call. I hope you got groceries and stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.